Get in, nerds. We are explaining Hearts of Iron 4. We talked a little bit about the division designer in the last explainer, so I think now is a good time for us to talk about the aircraft and ship and tank designers. So that's where we're going to go. So to get access to those, you're going to go into your production. You're going to go into, for the aircraft, you click this button, build aircraft, and you can get, you can use the create variant to create a variant of any of these, the aircraft that you've got access to, or any of the airframes that you've already researched. It's the same thing with the tank designer, so here I've got my tanks that I can build, and I can create variants of them down here. And with ships, it's the same. So these are ones I've already designed, or have been designed for me by the game. As you can see, we've got the Wichita class, the Destroyer class, which are defaults, and then the Battlecruiser 2 and Carrier 2 I designed myself. And then you got your chassis down here. You always have to design based on a chassis. So that's basically the way that's set up. That's how you get to it. We're going to go ahead and get started with the air designer. So you start with the air designer. You pick a small aircraft airframe, a carrier aircraft airframe, a medium aircraft airframe, or a large airframe. Oh, and by the way, some of this stuff is going to look just the slightest bit different. Different picture of Roosevelt here, for example, because I'm currently running the Road to 56 mod for this game. I'm not normally running that mod, so just want to let y'all know that's what we're doing. So let's go ahead and grab a basic small airframe and see what we've got here. So here you have the stats of the core airframe, just the airframe itself. You got your max speed, range, supply use, weight, and thrust. Thrust is generated by the engines. Weight can't go over thrust, or the airplane can't fly. This is not real physics, so we're just doing some basic math with this. Is this higher than this? If weight is very low compared to thrust, you'll get bonuses to, I think, agility, speed, but not range. Over here you got your combat stats: air defense, air attack, agility, which affects a lot of other things, air superiority, naval attack, naval targeting, ground attack, strategic bombing. And over here you have miscellaneous stats, including reliability, fuel use, surface and submarine detection, night penalty, mine laying, and mine sweeping. So, on aircraft, the basic way you're going to do this is each of these slots here that's got a plus sign. These are unlocked. Some of these slots are locked to a particular type of thing. Some are modular. So up here, for example, you've got your main armament and your secondary armament slots. And as we unlock more types of planes, we're going to unlock new slots. As we unlock new chassis, we're going to unlock new slots. And as we build up our aircraft technology, we're going to unlock new things to put in them. Down here, we got the engine slot. And over here, we got the special feature slots. And this is common to all types of aircraft. So for example, let's say I want to create a medium aircraft. I'm going to get a lot more armament and module slots. Now, one of the things about aircraft in Hearts of Iron 4 is they're fully modular. So, for example, if I wanted to create a medium fighter, I can do that. And that's kind of the equivalent. This was recently released, not that recently, it was released in an update, I think, a few years ago now. And it replaced the way to build stuff like heavy fighters. Now you just research the medium airframe and you turn that into a fighter. So suppose I want to create a medium fighter. First, I'm going to set my engines. That's kind of the core thing. This is going to determine how much thrust I've got available, which is going to, in turn, determine everything else about how the plane is set up. 2, 3, or 4 engines just mean a base amount, an increased amount, or an extremely increased amount of production needed to build the plane. I'm going to go with 2 engines. I'm virtually always going to go with 2 engines if available. So engine 1s generate 19 thrust and use 0.32 fuel. Engine 2s use the same amount of fuel but generate 25 thrust and increase max speed by 20%. You got a slight difference in production cost here, 24 versus 28, but it's not really that significant. So I'm going to go with engine 2s wherever possible. And then we're going to put some guns on this thing. I've got access, because this is a medium airframe, I've got access to the tactical bomber weapons or the fighter weapons. So under tactical bomber weapons, all I've got here is the medium bomb bay. If I were running a light airframe here, I would also have access to Okay, naval bomber weapons are over here as well, for available for secondary slots. But naval bomber are not weapons are not baseline available for medium airframes. The baseline assumes they're going to be either tactical bombers or fighters. So the only bomber thing I've got access to here is the medium bomb bay. This is a base weight of 1, but increases weight by 5 when you're on close air support or logistics strike missions. It also or port strike or strategic bombing. It also provides 6 ground attack to all 3 types of categories and reduces agility by 15. So this is going to significantly reduce the agility of this plane while making those types of strikes. I'm not going to use those. I'm going to put some fighter weapons on here. So let's see. I do have access to cannons too. So the basic types of fighter weapons we've got are light machine guns, heavy machine guns, and cannons. Light machine guns provide basically the highest ratio of air attack to weight possible. So you'll notice here, if we do 4 light machine guns, that's 10 air attack and 2 weight. Whereas if we do heavy machine guns, that's 18 air attack to 5 weight. So that's a significantly lower ratio than the light machine guns, but you get more overall air attack out of heavier weapons. It looks like you can also do logistics strike using heavy machine guns, but not very much of it. It's only 1 point. Cannons, you can get an even higher base amount of attack at a cost of even heavier weight and worse weight ratio, plus a reduction in agility. So if you're building a really heavy, hard plane, you can use cannons to do that. These also provide a little bit of logistics strike capability themselves. For now, I'm going to go with heavy machine guns. For our secondary slots, we also have access to naval bomber weapons. These are torpedo mountings. They're the baseline naval bomber weapon, and you can unlock better versions of torpedo mountings as the game goes on, because I think you're locked to only using 1 torpedo mounting for each plane. So you need to research better ones. You can't just double up. I believe that's the case. I think it might be light airframes can pack 1 torpedo mounting, and medium airframes can pack 2, but don't quote me on that. I don't tend to use a lot of general purpose bombers. So as you can see, this does a pretty similar thing to the medium bomb bay, but it provides the reduction to agility is higher, but the corresponding naval attack is also higher. And this lets you do naval strikes in addition to port strikes. Port strikes are where you shoot at a ship that's repairing. Naval strikes are where you shoot at a ship that's out on the water. We're going to load some more... Oh, cast weapons are also available. You got a small bomb bay, which is higher ground attack for close air support and logistics strike, but does not allow... I think it's higher. Hold on, let me double check on that before I steer you wrong here. Yeah, medium bomb bay is ground naval attack 6. Small bomb bay is ground attack 8, but only naval attack 2, and no strategic bombing capability. So slightly different. Bomb locks here are even more specialized. These ones, actually, I think the bomb locks are strictly worse now that I'm looking at it. But the bomb bay has higher production cost and weight. That's the difference. So if you want to keep the plane light, you gotta go with bomb locks. In any case, we're designing a fighter, so let's put some more heavy machine guns on here. All of your secondary weapon slots, by the way, this is your primary slot. All your secondary weapon slots are going to have the same things available. And there is actually no limit to the number of machine guns I can put onto this plane, except for the weight. I'm now over the amount of weight that I want to be at. So I'm going to remove one of them. That's going to drop weight by a little bit. Now, in our secondary modules here, we have a lot of different options. We're restricted primarily by our level of thrust because we're only using level 2 engines on this plane, so we're not going to be able to necessarily... If we want to add a bunch of special modules, we're going to have to cut our secondary weapons here. So I'm going to introduce you to the different types of special modules now. First, there's defense turrets. These cost some weight and some production, and they add air defense, which is a cute thing to have. Excuse me. The more... you can use 1 turret or 2. And then heavier ones, you're going to get worse ratios, but overall better stats. And these provide some air attack, it turns out, actually. But they are going to reduce your max speed. So, bear that in mind. They give you a little bit of agility when doing bomber type missions, it looks like, as well, which is something I didn't know. That might be unique to Road to 56, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't think that's the case for base Hearts of Iron 4. You can double up to get 2 in 1 slot. That increases the weight and the bonuses and penalties, but only a little bit. You notice you're only getting 1.5 air attack from 2 light MGs versus 1 for having 1, but you only have to use 1 slot. And it's the same over here. So that's defensive turrets. Let you trade a little bit of agility and of weight and max speed for a little bit of defense, which is quite useful in a lot of different situations. Next, you got your electronics. We don't have a lot available, but let's go with the basics. You got bomb sights. Those are going to provide a little bit of weight and production, but they're going to provide a big bonus to strategic bombing, which is useful for tactical bombers and heavy bombers. Radio navigation reduces night penalty, which is really, really nice. They also they also give you additional strategic bombing if you do strategic bombing. I tend to put these on most things. There's also, when you get later on in the game, it's only 1939 now, but you're going to get things like air-to-ground radar, air-to-air radar, and stuff like that. Air-to-air radar is very, very good for fighters that you got on intercept missions, but we're not going to be using these fighters for that yet. And in any case, that's a late game thing that can be done. So, I'm going to throw some radio navigation on this plane, and then we're going to look at the special modules. You got a bunch of different options over here, and it looks like some of them are not unlocked yet, I don't think, but let's take a quick pass through them. These allow you to do a lot of customization. So Flying Boat here is a good one for planes that you're going to use as naval bombers. This is available for medium and I think heavy airframes. It reduces max speed by a lot, but dramatically increases submarine and surface detection. So it makes it easier for you to spot ships, which in turn makes it easier for you to attack them. The rest are ways you can trade off armor, resource use, and range. So first there's armor plates. These add a lot of weight, but they also add a lot of air defense, and they reduce range. Extra fuel tanks, conversely, have a lot of weight to them, but they reduce air defense and increase range. Self-sealing fuel tanks don't provide any weight, or they provide a little bit of weight, but they provide a big air defense boost. However, they make the planes cost additional rubber, which, of course, is a strategic resource that you need to be careful about managing. Conversely, non-strategic materials usage significantly reduces air defense and reduces the amount of aluminum that the planes cost, as well as reducing the overall production cost. So this lets you build cheap, weak planes that don't cost as many strategic resources. Very useful under very particular circumstances. Let me see. Let's just take a quick look at the main primary weapons for strategic bombers. You got a large bomb bay here. This doesn't provide any ground attack, basically, but it provides a huge amount of strategic bombing. Just want to draw your attention to that. And as you can see here, the heavy airframe has a lot of options for secondary slots, but it looks like the only ones you get are naval and strategic bombing, which makes a certain degree of sense. All right. Sorry. One more thing. For engines for strategic, you got access to 4 and 6, very high base production cost. Conversely, for light airframes, you're going to have access to only 1 or 2 engine, and that's going to provide a pretty low base production cost compared to other aircraft. You're also going to see a correspondingly low number of slots available. So that's the air designer. And by the way, you can design aircraft to do multiple things, particularly medium aircraft. So if I wanted to design, in fact, America, the USA, starts with a fighter bomber as one of its base types of aircraft, with a small bomb bay here and then a 4 light machine guns set up here. This is a reasonably effective fighter bomber. And the advantage of that is that the airplane can do multiple things. The disadvantage is that it's not as good at any of them as a dedicated fighter or bomber would be. Because it's spending some extra weight on things that you don't use for bombing. And then if you're doing fighter work with it, it's spending a bunch of extra weight on something that you only use for bombing. So and it's also taking up a slot. Like if I replace this with a fighter weapon, I could have significantly higher air attack overall. So that's basically the way planes are set up in Hearts of Iron 4. It lets you have a lot of flexibility with overall designing your air fleets, and it also lets you get a lot of different things you can do. Those mean the same thing. I don't know why I said that twice, but it is what it is. Let's look at the ship designer. For ships, you've got a bunch of different chassis. So I'm going to kind of take you through them one by one. Actually, you know what? We're going to do one video for each of these. That's how we're going to do this. So, we've talked about the air designer. That's going to be all for this episode. I will see you all on the other side.